Hi, everybody. So I'm hoping that you can see and hear me pretty soon. You will see my screen, but not me tonight, okay? Hopefully it's working. I told it to go live, so hopefully it's working. It says it is. Trying to find me though, just a second here. Oh, there it is. All right, just a second here. I have to get my second computer up. I'm hoping that you can see and hear me pretty soon. Oh, just a second. There we go. Oh, is everybody hearing me okay? This is the first time I've done this on my new laptop, so let me know how the sound is. Hi, everybody. So we're gonna do a little software tonight. We're gonna have a little digitizing fun tonight. And for those of you who do not have the software, so what we're using tonight is the Dime Perfect Embroidery Pro software. So if you don't have software, that's fine. I have put this little candle mat you can see on the screen. I have put this candle mat up on the drop box. So you go to Sew Along with Jan, and to the very first post, there are two links to Dropbox, and it's in the software link, okay, to the Dropbox. And then there's the instructions on how to sew it, the PES file, and then also a C2S file for those of you who have software. But I'm going to show you how to digitize this tonight. And then, so if you don't have the software, you can still sew it out, okay? It's cute little I like candle mats. Kimberbell did a bunch of candle mats and the CD's no longer available. And they're really cute. And I thought, well, I can just make my own because I can just use the software. So what I did is I used some of the built-in designs in this and some of the built-in shapes, like applique shapes. In the software. So, and it's basically a big applique. It's going to be in an 8x8 hoop. So it's a little bit bigger. Now, if you have a smaller hoop, you could reduce it down, make it a little bit smaller. Um, and then you could stitch it out if you have a smaller machine. So, okay. So I think we're getting people in here. Is everybody's hearing me all right? And had to go to my phone. Oh, Margaret, you're having trouble with your tablet, are you? Or do you not have don't you have your computer back yet? So, yeah, I think people are watching. It looks like people are getting in okay. All right, I'm just kind of looking to see if everybody's getting in. Whoops. I need to make sure I can see the comments. So, I always have to use a second. I have my little tablet sitting next to my computer here so I can see, because when I share my screen, I'm still not using StreamYard. Evidently, there's still something goofy with StreamYard, so I can't use it because it keeps dropping out. And this seems to work fine. So we'll just go back to the old way if I have to, but kind of like the ability to use more tools. So, oh well. Oh, we got somebody from Wisconsin. We got somebody from California. All kinds of folks. So anyway, we're gonna make. I had, like I saw, we had I had a couple candle mats that I made for a Kimberbell, like Kimberbell Club or something. They were really cute, and uh, and I thought, well, gosh, I can make those myself. There's not much to them, and I wanted to do some stuff with the software. So the software has some really cute built-in things, and like the little snowflakes and stuff I used in this are actually right in the software, so I didn't even have to digitize those. And I also that cute little kind of flower-like shape that's in the center, that's in the software. So yeah, so I thought it'd be fun to make these, and they're super easy. And then you could just change your different themes. You could make different themes for the seasons, or you could do one for each month, or whatever you wanted. And you could use the same base, like the same shape and stuff, and then just put different stuff. So I thought, well, we'll just do a little winter one since it's kind of winter right now. So, okay. All right, so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do this little candle mat. So I'm gonna close this little picture up, and I'm going to go get my software open. So this is Perfect Embroidery Pro. You know, the main icon on the screen says embroidery tool shed, so that all the designs are in the software. So, and they're also doing something different. I don't know. My inspiration today just showed up. Of course, they have the designs over here, the monthly designs that we've been getting for years and years. But they also have a new free design that they're doing on uh, their Facebook, the Dime Facebook event that's on every Thursday. They're doing these little designs. So this is one of the free designs, and it takes you to their website to get it off their website. So you'd click on the house free design, and it'll take you, I can show you, it'll take you over to the Dime website, and then they've done it, this is the fourth week, so there's four different designs here. The little bird, the little tree, the basket, and then this one was the little, it was like a bowl project. Like they did a little, what do they call those microwave bowl cozies, you know? So they're over here on their website. You can get them there. Okay. So we'll just go ahead and close this and bring this down a second. And then, okay. So I'm ready to start digitizing. When my inspiration today comes up, I'm just going to create a new design. So that little button is down at the bottom here. I'm so happy I have a bigger computer, so it's easier. It's going to be easier for you to see my screen when I do this, because it everything's going to show now. My other computer was only 14 inches. It was very small. So yeah, they will make a project the last Thursday of each month on the Dime page. Yep. So they're doing stuff every, it's kind of like weekly now, right, Lynn? I mean, they're doing like this stuff weekly now. So it's just something different. So, okay. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new design. So I'm just going to click create a new design down here. And then it brings up my main screen, and all my tools are turned on. And this is Perfect Embroidery Pro. So now when what I like to default in my software is Perfect Embroidery Pro. So if you're not sure what's defaulting, go over here to the little shopping cart down here at the bottom under purchase, under here, there's like the sequence view. And then over here under the little shopping cart, the little yellow check marks mean that you have that active. So I want Perfect Embroidery Pro to be my main software that opens up. And so you can do that. And if you're not sure which one it is, click on the little three little dots. And then if it doesn't say, if the words set as default are not there, that means it's the default. So in other words, like if I went to Word Art and Stitches and clicked next to that, it says make default. Well, I don't want that one defaulted. I wanted Perfect Embroidery Pro. So that one already is. Okay. So so that I don't have to change mine. So I always like Perfect Embroidery Pro to be my default software to open up, because I use this most of the time. The other softwares are really fun, and they can be actually, you can utilize the other ones basically in these by clicking on some of these little icons on the left or on the right over here. There's a bunch of little icons. So a bunch of these are the different things that happen in some of the other specialty softwares. Okay, so I have a bunch of them active on this computer because I use quite a few different ones. So, okay. So we're ready to go here. We got this all ready to go, and I'm going to go back to my sequence view. So I'm going to go back down to the little lines here and go to sequence view, because we're going to need that in a little bit. Now, the first thing I like to do, especially if I know it's going to be kind of close on the size, I like to bring up a hoop on the screen. The old P design software that I've digitized with for years, you had to have a hoop open on the screen. This one you don't. But sometimes if I know, like this candle mat, I wanted to make sure that it would fit in my 8x8 square hoop. So I'm going to go ahead and bring a hoop up. So the hoop is on the left-hand side here on the toolbar, and it looks kind of like a hoop. It says hoop. I'm going to click on that button. And then I'm going to bring up my 8x8 hoop, which I know is 200 by 200 when it comes to the millimeters. And if you look above the little line here, or above the little like icon, it says it's 7.9 by 7.9. So it's actually not quite 8x8. So That's why I like to bring it up so I know for sure that things are going to fit. Okay. So, all right. So I'm going to click OK. Okay. And Renee, I'm sorry. It says that you said that your video is pausing. Mine does not seem to be pausing. I'm also in here on a tablet and it seems to be fine. So it might be you. Can you try going out and coming back in again? Sometimes that helps. Because so far everything seems okay on my screen because I can see myself. Okay. All right. So there's my 8x8 hoop. Does anybody else experiencing me stopping? We didn't have any trouble last week. Okay. Thanks, Renee. We didn't have any trouble last week, so let's see. It's possible that I am having some internet issues, so I am going to maybe call Mediacom and have them check out some of the wiring outdoors because something maybe has changed. But because that's so weird that StreamYard's not working now. But we will we will address that hopefully tomorrow. So okay, so I've got my hoop up here. And I would like to be in inches because I work better in inches. Your voice once in a while. Okay. I'm not sure what that means, Jackie. Fine here so far. Mine is doing that too. Oh, yours is doing that too, Marianne? Okay. So let's just keep going and see what happens, okay? All right, so I've got my hoop up. I want to be in inches. So if you go to the ruler bar at the top here and right click on that, you can either be in metric or inches. So I'm going to choose inches. And then I would like the grid on the screen. And I've got it on here already. So I'll just show you where to access that. If you right click again on the ruler bar and go down to show grid, see, that's how you turn it on and off. Okay, so see, I've got it showing, but to change it, I want to go to the grid settings. Okay, now the grid settings, this time I would like them to be 1-inch grids. So I'm going to type in horizontal 1.0 and vertical 1.0 and click OK. Okay, so there's my 1-inch grid up on my screen. So that'll help me if I need to place something and I'm not positive that I've got it placed correctly. Okay. All right. So when we stitch this out, I'm going to kind of talk about the parts of this so you kind of have an idea where we're going with it. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is the placement line for the batting because we're going to put batting in this and do some quilting on it. And so the first thing we need is a placement line so that we know where to put our batting down. Okay. So I'm going to go to the artwork tool, which is the little pencil, circle, and square up here. I'm going to click the little arrow next to it, and then I'm going to go down to the ellipse, which is a circle. Okay. And if I hold my control key down on my keyboard while I'm drawing, I'm just going to kind of start at the top left corner and go down. Then it makes a perfect circle. Okay. If I don't hold it down, then it's going to be kind of, elongated or whatever. I wanted it to be perfect. So I went ahead and held my control key down for the first one here. Okay. Now I want to change the size of this. So I need to change the size. So I'm going to go to my selection tool so that my circle is selected. I'm going to go over to the properties box at the top here. And I'm going to go to transform. And I would like that circle to be 7.5 inches by 7.5. You notice that maintain aspect ratio is checked, so it's going to remain square. Okay, and I'm going to click apply. So it made it just a little bit bigger. And now you can see in my hoop, it's a little bit off center. So I'm also going to go up to the ruler bar, right click on it and go down to center origin. And I'm just going to center that round circle up in my hoop. Okay, so now we've got my circle is perfectly centered in my hoop. Now this, of course, right now, if you look over here in our sequence view, this is how we know that it is what type of thing we're working with. And if I click on that little plus sign there and open it up, it says that we're working with artwork. Well, artwork won't sew. It's just artwork. Okay, so I am going to create this into stitches. So let's select the circle and I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to convert to a run because I just need this to be a placement line. So it just needs to be a run. Then over in my properties box, I can change my settings that I need. So let's say I would like it to be, I want the stitch length to be a little shorter. 3.0 is kind of long. So let's make it 2.5. I'm going to leave it at standard. It just needs to be a single outline and click apply. So now when I select that, it's now when I look in my properties box or my sequence view, it says that it is a run and it's 241 stitches for that circle. Okay. All right. So that was the placement line for the batting. Then you'd put the batting down over that placement line after you stitch it. And the next step is going to tack down the batting. Okay. Now I'm going to start, since we've already got a circle here, right? We don't need to draw again. We've already got one. So I've got it selected. I'm going to go up to the copy button up here on the toolbar, copy and paste. Now, if you look in the sequence view, now it says I have 2 runs. Okay. I would like it to stop in between the runs. And this was a question on the Dime website the other day. Somebody couldn't get things to stop. Well, you got to change the colors in between so that you can stop. Okay. So I have the second circle selected over here in the sequence view. And then I am going to go down here and I'm just going to right click on color number 2. And that way the first circle is blue and the second circle now is red, so that they'll stop in between because we just need a color change. Okay. Now the circle is a little bit big for a tack down. So my tack down is going to be just a teeny bit smaller because I don't want all of that bulky batting in my seam. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to transform my second circle. So I have it selected over here in the sequence view. I'm going to go to transform in my properties box up here. And this one I'm going to go down by 2%. I want it to be 98%. So sometimes I'll use that. Maintain aspect ratio is selected, and I'm just going to select the 100 and type in 98. So then it goes down together, and then I'm going to click apply. So now you can see over here that my placement line is just a little bit outside of my tack down line that we just made. Okay, so now we're going to do a little bit more changing on that tack down line. I'm going to go back to the run tab. And right now it is the same as the first one. Well, when I do a tack down, I like it to go around 2 times so that you're not as likely to cut through your stitches. Okay. So I'm going to leave the stitch length the same size, 2.5 millimeters, but I'm going to change the type from standard to 2-ply. Okay. I've got that second one selected and then I'm going to click apply. All right. So far we have done the placement line, lay down your batting. The second step is tacks down the batting. Then we're going to trim it close to the stitches. Okay, so I'll go through the sewing part as well. I wrote out the sewing instructions for you, and they're in the download. Okay, just a second here. I gotta get my notepad to turn over here. Okay. Now, the other thing we'll do after we trim the batting, I'm going to lay the main piece of fabric down over the batting. Okay. So the next step is actually going to be the tack down. That's going to tack down my fabric that I laid down on top of that batting. Okay. So we've already got the circle copied. Remember we copied it up here a minute ago? Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and click paste again. And by the way, that one is the same size as the original one, which is the size I want it because I want it to tack down on outside of the batting. So I'm going to leave that the bigger size, the full size. I want it to be a different color. So I'm going to go down. I've got it selected over here in my sequence view. I'm going to go down and right click on color number 3 so that it is green. We're going to check our settings in our properties box. The length should be 2.5, which is good, but I do want that one to be standard. So it is standard. And that was the original bigger circle that we made. Okay. Make sure that I didn't miss a step. Nope, we're good. Okay. All right, so I've got my 3 circles. So the first one was the placement line for the batting. Second was the tack down for the batting. Then we're going to trim the batting and lay the main piece of fabric down. And my main piece of fabric on mine was, it was the blue gingham. That's what I'm trying to think of the word. Gingham. So it's this blue gingham. So this whole piece was covering that area. And then we tack down the circle. Okay. So that's where we're at right now. Is there any questions so far? Does that make sense to everybody? So we've got our fabric on there. We've got a tack down. And now we're ready for the applique parts. Okay. So now we're going to do that little applique part in the center of the candle mat. And that is actually going to be, it's actually a flower and it's in the applique tools or the artwork tool. So we're going to go back up to the artwork tool, which is the pencil, square, and circle. And I'm going to click on the little arrow again. And I'm going to come down and it says flower. So I'm going to come down to the flower. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and this time I just kind of drew and got it about the size that I thought it looked good. And I wasn't sure how big I wanted it, so I kind of got it in the center and I came up with the size. Okay, so let's select it with our selection tool and go back to the transform tab. Now this one, I know exactly how big I want it. I want it to be, it's a funny measurement, but it works just fine. I'm going to deselect maintain aspect ratio right now. Okay. I want it to be 6.08 inches wide and 5.74 inches high. 5.74. And then I'm going to apply. So I did deselect that maintain aspect ratio because I typed in the 2 numbers myself. Okay. And it made a nice size. It filled the circle pretty well, but not too big. Now I need to get it centered because it's way off center right now. So I'm going to go back up to my tool, my ruler bar, right click and center origin. And then it's back nicely centered in my circles and in my hoop. Okay. So right now, if I went over to my sequence view and looked at this, it would say that it's artwork. Remember, that was the artwork tool. So now we need to make it into stitches. So I have it selected and I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to convert to, and I'm going to put this to applique. I want to make this an applique so that there's satin stitches around it. I am going to change the color of this to color number 4. It's still selected. I'm going to right click on color number 4 down here. Okay. And now we can go up to the properties box and we can talk about what kind of settings we want for this applique. I like to make my applique widths at least 3.5 millimeters wide. So that is where I'm going to do this one. It's not a real big item, so I thought 3.5 looked good. So I'm going to go with that. The stitch length refers to like the tack downs and stuff. So I want that to be a little smaller. 3.5 is kind of big. So I'm going to make that 2.5 for the stitch length. And then I want a placement line and a tack down line. So they have recently changed this, that you can change your tack down line from run to none. So they kind of made a little drop down menu in here. They used to have just two little check boxes there. And then you deselected the tack down if you didn't want it. So they just changed this. It hasn't, I think it was in the last update actually. So it's just a little different. And then the other thing I like to do when I make appliques, I like to inset my stitches into the fabric a little bit so that if instead of 50%, so like now the inset is 50%. So that means that it's half the stitches off the fabric and half the stitches on. Well, I like it to be a little bit more in so that it grips the fabric a little better. So I'm going to make mine 60%. So I'm going to change that to 60%. And I think I'm happy with that now. So I think that should be fine. I'm going to go ahead and click apply. And you'll notice that the stitch is just ever so slightly moved inward. The satin stitch moved inward, okay? Now I need parts of this. So like when I look at this is our working file. So this is the C2S file that we're working with. And it doesn't show me, so I'm going to click the little plus sign next to my flower. And it just says applique. Well, we know as people that have been embroidering that appliques have different pieces, right? They have a placement line, they have a tack down line, because I told it to have both, and then the satin stitch or whatever other covering stitch you chose. Well, I need to be able to move some of these around, so I'm going to actually need to break this up so I can see the three pieces of my applique. So I'm going to go ahead and right click on the word applique over here, and I'm going to choose break up path. And now if I look at my appliques, here's my satin. So it added a bunch of stuff over here. So here, the first step is going to be my placement line. The second one is my tack down line. And then the third one is the satin stitch. So the three pieces are showing over here in my sequence view now. So because we need to move some things around in a little bit. Okay. Okay. So that is the applique section for the center. Now we are going to actually do a little moving in a minute because I'm going to, oh yeah, we're going to do that in the next step. So we're going to move a couple things around so that I had it applique do the satin stitching, I should say, after it did the quilting. So now we're going to produce some quilting, okay? Because I want it to quilt over the center applique, but I want the satin stitches to be on after the quilting is on. So we need another circle because we're going to do some quilting. So I want another circle, but I'm going to go ahead and select the first circle to make sure that I have the size I want. I went up and selected the first circle. I'm just going to hit copy and paste one more time. I think it would have been the correct one, but this way we know for sure. Okay, so Jan, how you tell what is what? When do you do the break apart? You do the break apart on the, let me back up so you can see it. Okay, so here were our four things, and the last thing was the applique. Okay, but we know that there's other pieces in that, right? There's a placement line, a tack down line, and then the overcast or like the satin stitch. Okay, so what I did is I selected the applique, right clicked on it, and broke up the path. Then it's always going to be in the order, Jan, placement line, tack down line, because that's the way appliques go, right? So that's the way they put it. So here were the first three things in my sequence view are my three circles for the tack downs and the fabrics and everything and the batting. Then we're going to go back to a placement line for the flower applique, then a tack down line for the fabric because we'd put the fabric down, we'd sew that and then trim the fabric, and then the last thing is going to be the actual covering stitch. Okay, and it's always in the same order because it always puts it placement line, tack down line, cover stitch. All right, but we are going to move some things yet, so we're not quite done moving things. All right, so now we need, I'm going to select then my first circle again, and we're going to copy and paste it again. So I'm going to copy it, go up to the top here, copy and paste. So if you look here under that first circle, is step 6 not doing anything anymore? Step 6, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, not right at the moment. It will be a different, step 6 is still the satin stitch. So yes, it does do something, Mary. It's a satin stitch. 7 now, yes, it is a satin stitch, but it's actually going to be lower in our design in a minute. Okay, so let me get there. We're getting there. So I have my second run stitch, but see, it's way up at the top. Well, I don't really want it there. That's not where I want that. I am going to pull it down. I got to turn my page here. I'm going to pull it down to below all the flowers. Actually, below the flower outlines, because I'm going to do the quilting before I do the satin stitch. So remember, the last thing is the satin stitch for that flower. I'm going to take this run and I'm going to pull it down and drop it on the second outline stitch. And the tack down or the satin stitch is still at the bottom. Can you see where it is now? So I've got the 2 flowers, and then I've got this line that we just created before the satin stitch, because that's going to be now the quilting. Okay. So instead of an outline, I actually need it to be a different type of stitch. It needs to be a fill. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to right click on it. I've got it selected down here, and I'm going to right click on it. Then I'm going to convert to a fill, a complex fill. Okay. Well, obviously we don't want it to be a fill like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up here to our fill type, and we're going to select stippling, because I want it to be stippling. And I would like it to be, I don't care for the maze stippling. I prefer Hilbert is my favorite. So I'm going to choose Hilbert. And then the stitch length, I want it to be a little shorter stitch. So let's go 2.5. And I just kind of played around with the density. I thought 6 looked good. So let's try 6.0. And then I'm going to click apply. Okay. So there is our quilting. So it's going to quilt over the applique piece of fabric in the center, over the entire circle, and then it's going to put the satin stitching, because that's last, that's going to be on top. So it's going to look like it's separate, but it's not going to be. It's all, the whole circle is going to be stippled. Okay. Does that make sense to everybody? We got our stippling, and then we've got our satin stitching for our flower. Okay. All right. So now we get to, we're going to add some of the little snowflakes. Actually, I'm going to bring got to get my mat over here so I can see, make sure I picked the right one here. I think I wrote the numbers down. So, all right. So we're going to put some snowflakes in here. We're going to do the little ones first. So these are in the text designs. And, if you do not have these in your software, it means that you do not have the support files installed. So if you don't know where that is, it's on the CD you would have gotten with your software. If you didn't get a CD, contact me and I have the file. So I'm going to click on the text designs, which is looks like a book with the letter T up here. It's next to the text tool and the monogram tool. Okay. And then this catalog page is going to open up. And here, that means you don't have that file, and contact me and I'll make sure you get it. Okay. But these are just designs that are built into the software. It's really awesome because a bunch of them are just really nice little cool designs. Okay. So I'm looking for a snowflake, and it seems like it's down here. Let's see. It's down in the S's, so I think I have to go down a little further. Let's see. Oh, here we go. So SO, it's SO 45013. Okay. Oh, are you waiting? It came back up for me. I noticed that it stopped and then it came right back up again. So you guys okay? Can you see it now? Okay, so is it coming up now? Because it looks like it's moving again okay for me. Sorry about this. I am gonna call MediaCom tomorrow and have them check the internet because I think it is now the internet. Okay? Because it looks like it's coming up for me. Okay, so I found my little snowflake that I wanted to use for my here comes yet it, yes it comes up. Okay, we're good. All right. No, I didn't do the monogram. I did the text designs, which is the T with the book. Okay, and it's SO 45013. So it's under the it's a snowflake. So it's right here. It's a little snowflake. I'm going to select that one, and I'm going to click OK. And that little snowflake is going to show up down here on my screen. Okay. Now I wanted to do something fun with this and do another, and we've done this tool before, but it's been a while. It's the carousel tool. And the carousel tool is the little circle tool up here. Looks like a round circle with a bunch of little dots. And there's a little arrow next to it. And you need to have your design selected. So it's selected in the center there, okay? I'm going to click on carousel, the little arrow, then carousel. And it shows all these little snowflakes up here in a little circle. And so I decided, I kind of played around with this and I found that 6.15 worked really well. Whoops, 6.15, sorry, got a little slap happy with the typing. There we go. Seemed to work for the placement of it. I just kind of did some checking and that's what worked for me. And I only need 8, or I'm sorry, I only need 6 little snowflakes. So I'm going to bring this from 8 down to 6. And then that way it places all the little snowflakes all at the same time and watch what it does. So if I click OK, it just puts them in perfect little area in the little points of that flower. And they're all perfectly centered where I wanted them. And I just thought that was so cool. I enjoyed that. I'm sure it's all centered, but we'll just check center origin to make sure it looks like it is. Okay, so there's our little snowflakes. Aren't those cute? And they just drop right into those the little points of the little points of the flower, like that. So I just played around with the size, and 6.115 seemed to work. I used to have those. Oh, you don't have them either, Jackie? So, oh, can I go through the carousel steps again? Sure. We'll just do it over. It's really easy. Okay. So here's we need to have our little item that we're going to carousel selected. Okay. So I've got the little snowflake selected. I'm going to go up to the carousel tool, little arrow next to it, and then choose carousel. I want to make the width. I'm going to change the width and I'm going to keep the aspect ratio selected. I want it 6.15. And like I said, I just kind of played around until I got the size that I wanted. And then the repeats, I only want 6. I only need 6 little snowflakes. So I'm going to go down to 6 and then I'm going to click OK. And look, bam, they're just perfect. So that's a really fun little tool to use if you need some repeated items, and then you can get them all perfectly, arranged around what you're doing. But yeah, Jackie, if you don't have all of those, just contact me and I will send you the file so you can install it. Okay, now back snowflake number. Oh, the number is SO45013. So it's kind of down towards the bottom of the list. Okay, so I was happy with that. I thought that looked real cute. And then I'm going to add another snowflake in the center. So I'm going to go back to the text designs. So the little book with the T. I'm going to click on that. And then this one was also in the S's, so I have to go down here. Let's see here. Whoops. Did I make, whoops, I think I overpassed it. SO, and it's 99609. So it's this one right next to the snowman. You can't find the carousel tool. It's on the top. Make sure you're in Perfect Embroidery Pro, first of all, Lynn. The carousel tool is on the toolbar. It's about halfway in, and it looks like a circle with little dots. And then there's an arrow next to it. So it's kind of in the middle. Okay. So the next center, the big center snowflake is going to be this SO99609. So I'm going to click on that one and click OK. Okay, so it brings it in, and you can see that it's a little bit smaller than I'd like it. So I have it selected, and I'm going to go up here to my properties box and go all the way over to transform. It's still moving for me, guys, so just bear with me. It's still moving for me. I can see myself, and it's the normal delay. So, okay, the transform. I'm on transform, and I want it to be the width. I want to maintain the aspect ratio again, so I'm going to click that. And I knew that the width was supposed to be, whoops, I got to get it selected here. The width, I wanted 3.75 inches. So then it brings up the height at the same size. And I'm going to click apply. And then that made that snowflake in the center. And see, look, we got that really cool, the little snowflake, and all the little points of the snowflake aim right at my little petals on my flower applique. Okay, so I thought it was really cool how that just like laid right in there, and it was perfect. Okay, so we didn't have to even digitize that. It was just, and it was a really cool sparse applique. So I really liked that. Was really fun. Okay, so that is the entire top of the candle mat. So we got it. We got all the batting in there. We got the fabric on there. We did the stippling. Then we did some satin stitching, and then we did the little star or the little snowflakes. Okay. Now on mine, I actually used a fair amount of metallic thread. I used some of the King Star metallic, so I used blue King Star for the little snowflakes, and then the bigger one I used silver in the center. Okay. But we have one more thing that we need to do. Oh, can I get, what's the matter, Jackie? I need to go back to the small snowflakes again? You need to go back to the small snowflakes again. Okay. So let me hit undo a couple times, okay? And we'll go back to the small snowflakes. So I've got it up there, and I have it selected. Okay? Then you need to go to the carousel tool. So the carousel tool is on the toolbar. It's on the second one down, and it's in about halfway. It's like right underneath the zoom thing, and it looks like a round circle with dots. And then there's an arrow next to it. Okay? And I'm going to choose carousel. Now, Jackie, you do have the embroidery suite, so it may not have the carousel tool, but I thought it still did. Okay? Because remember, yours is going to be a little different. And then I changed my width to 6.15 inches and my repeats to 6. Where did I get the first snowflake? It was in the text designs. Okay, so it was in the icon here that looks like a book with a T. So it comes with the software, Cindy. I've got my 6 repeats, and I'm going to click OK. So that brought down my little snowflakes. Okay. And then I'm going to go get the big one, and it's in the same text designs, and it was in the same area. So it's way down in the S's here. R S O. Here we go. So it's this one, right? Got to find it. It's down a little further. There we go. It's next to the little snowman, and it's this one. Okay. And I'm going to click OK. Then I'm going to make that one. I wanted to change the size, so I'm going to go, that my bigger one here is selected. I'm going to go back to transform, and I'm going to maintain my aspect ratio because I want it to stay in aspect to each other, and I'm going to click the width, and I just kind of guessed, and I thought 3.75 looked good. And then I'm going to click apply. So there's my big snowflake in the center. And those were all built into the software. Now, Cindy, do you have the Dime software or do you have the Floriani software? Last time repeats amount. You have 6 repeats, Jackie. 6 repeats instead of 8. So bring it down from 8 to 6. Okay? All right, so now that's the whole top of our candle mat. So we need to finish it now and get the last, I think maybe the second here, make sure I did, yes. So I did this correct. I had to change this because I had made a mistake when I did my original one. You do have the dime. Okay. I wasn't sure. I have a few people that also have Floriani, and it's similar enough that you can watch the videos and do it, but the designs are going to be different because it's a different company that does the software. So now we need to do the sewing line. So then we're going to put these backing pieces on the top of the hoop, and we're going to stitch it down so that we can make like an envelope back and then turn it right side out. Okay, so that we need one more stitching line that's going to stitch the whole thing together. So I am going to select the second circle. Remember, that's the one that's just a little smaller, the 98%, because I originally selected the first one, and some of the stitching showed funny on the edge of my candle mat, and I didn't like that. So I'm going to choose the smaller circle, which is step number 2. That's the one we brought down about 2%. Okay, so I'm going to select it over here in the sequence view. Then I'm going to copy it with the copy button, and then I'm going to paste it. Now, if you look in the sequence view, it pasted it way up at the top. Well, we don't want it there. We need it at the end because that's the last thing we're going to do. So I'm just going to grab it with my mouse and pull it all the way to the bottom after my last snowflake. And that's where it is down here. Now, so I have my placement line for the batting, tack down line for the batting, tack down line for my fabric. Then I've got my applique pieces and my placement line for my applique, my tack down line for the applique, then the quilting, then the satin stitch for the applique, then the little snowflakes, and then the big snowflake. And then we'll put the back on, and then the last step is going to be the sewing line that will sew around the outside edge to sew the whole thing together. Okay, so I got that at the bottom. That's where we want it. Got to change a couple things up here in settings. Just a second, I got to turn my page here. Okay, so I'm going to go up here to the run, because it is a run. Oops, click the run tab. There we go. I want it to be 2.5. And then I want it to be a 2-ply, which it already is. So we had to change that before, because that was a tack down before. Okay. So I think I'm pretty happy with that. Okay. Now I did go in and change some of my colors of the actual stitching colors. I used white thread for all of it through The stippling. So like I used white thread for all the tack downs and everything at the beginning because I used blue and white fabric. So let me I used the little gingham and then I had white in the center that had little snowflakes on it. So I used white thread and then I did all of my quilting in white. So if you want to remind yourself what colors you want to use, go ahead and then you can change the colors in the design. So I'm going to go ahead and choose my stippling area and I would like that to be white. So I'm going to go ahead and, oh, let's see, that one right now is what color? It's actually color number 1. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to go ahead and choose one of these colors down here and make it the color I want it. So how about number 6? I left clicked on number 6 and I'm going to make it I'm going to choose brother embroidery and I'm going to make it white, which is the 001. Okay. Click OK. And then I'm going to select my stippling and I'm going to right click on that number 6 square that is then white. Okay. Now the satin outline, I did that in a light blue. So right now it's in color number 4. So I'm just going to click number 4 and I'm going to go back up to my brother embroidery and I use that light blue. So we'll just make number 4 light blue. And my small snowflakes, I kind of made them I used some metallic thread, but they were kind of cornflower blue. So let's see, right now those are like color number what? Let me see what color they made them. Color number 21. Those were originally done in Madeira. I get lost in the sequence box as to what is what. Okay, so you need to when you're looking, remember how we digitized it. So then you look at each piece because I'm looking at each piece. I know what I wanted it to be. Okay. So I'm going to go to 21 down here. That's the color box. Left click on it. And I'm going to make that brother number 70. And that was that's that cornflower blue. Let's see if I can find it. Where is it? It's kind of a cornflower blue. There we go. All right. And then my middle snowflake, I wanted it to be silver. I used Miss Silver Metallic, so I chose that. And then I'm going to, that was that was color box number 22. So I'm just going to go ahead and go up here and make it brother again. And I'm going to make that the silver. And click OK. Okay. Now, at this point, there's a whole gob of colors down here that we don't have in the design. So I'm just going to go ahead at the bottom here and click negative, the negative, red negative sign, and take out all the colors we haven't used. So now these are just the colors that are left. Okay. Sometimes when you bring in pre-digitized designs, they bring in like multiple thread color charts. So there's going to be a bunch of boxes at the bottom. And that's the way you get rid of the stuff that's actually not in the design. Okay. And I just left the original colors for the placement line, the tack down line, and then the second tack down line for the fabric. So that it doesn't matter what colors those are because you can choose your applique colors then. Mine were white because my applique fabrics were light colored. So the first thing I used white thread and it made the placement line for my batting. And then I laid my batting down and I used the same white thread to sew the tack down line for the batting. Then I trimmed my batting and I laid my blue gingham fabric over the whole thing. Okay. And then I tacked that down with the white thread. Then the next step would be the stippling. So it stipples, oh, I'm sorry. Then the next step was going to be the applique in the center. So I needed a placement line for my little flower. and I left the white thread in for that. And then I laid my white fabric down and I tacked it down and trimmed it close to the stitches with the white thread. And then I did the stippling. So then the stippling is going on. Okay. And then then the next step was the flower satin stitch. So I did that in the light blue. So that's when I started changing my colors in the design so that I could remind myself what I used. Light blue, then I did the darker blue for the little snowflakes, and I did the silver in the center for the bigger one. Then I went back to the white to do the tack down for the backing all the way around the outside edge. And then I pulled it out of the hoop, trimmed close to the stitches, and turned it right side out through that little envelope back. Now I have the sewing instructions written out for you, and it's in the download. So if you go to the Dropbox, all of the sewing instructions are there. And the PES file is there. If you're unsure if yours was correct, you can look at my PES and my C2S file. Okay, so they're all there for you, all those three files. There's a sewing instruction PDF, the C2S file, and a PES file. Because I know people like to sew these out, but they don't have software, and they just want to sew them. So I'm just going to let everybody have the PES file so you can sew them out. Okay? All right, so we got this all done. I got everything the way I want it. And the best way, some of you are confused about what's what in the sequence view. So the best thing to do, and I think it was Cindy and Jan that were talking about that, watch, the way I learned to digitize, to be quite honest, I watched things sew. Okay, that's how I learned to digitize. I watched things sew. So then I knew, okay, well, I need this piece, like a placement line, and then I have to put the fabric down and tack it down to my stabilizer. So as you digitize, I would write down notes about how that, how it was sewing, and I would watch the sewing machine sew. So that's how I've learned to digitize. That's the best way, is just watch it sew in the machine by someone else who's digitized it, and then learn to do it yourself. Okay? Can you show the stitch out run for them? Yes, I can. There's one more thing I'm going to do quickly, and then I'll do that then. Okay? Now we need to save this, obviously. Okay? So we need to go to File, Save As. You always want to save it, and it says Save as Type C2S. That is that working file that we need to have, and if you need to go back and play with it. Okay? My phone is like exploding over here, so. Okay? So could you cut the flower on the scan and cut and then lay it down and stitch around it? Yes, you could, Ellen. And you can actually create that file right here in the software. What I do is I leave an artwork piece and then I export it as an SVG. So yes, you can. You can do that right in the software. I don't normally, when they're super easy like this, I don't take the time to cut it out with scan and cut. If it's more complicated, then I do. Okay, because it's not particularly hard to trim this. It's pretty easy. So I'm going to save this then as my winter candle mat. Whoops, see if I can spell tonight. And I'm going to save it first as my C2S because I need to have that so I can go back to it later. And I'm going to save it on my desktop. Okay, so I click Save. And then I'm going to go back because I need a stitch file also. So I'm going to go back to File, Save As, and I'm going to leave the same name, and then I'm going to choose Save As Type. I'm going to choose PES version 9. That's the newest version they have in the software, and I'm also going to save that on my desktop. Like that. Okay? So, Ellen, to explain that a little further, you would then choose your placement line up here of the flower. Okay, and there's several ways to do this, but if you would just copy and paste that, so like if I would copy that design, that element, which is the placement line, you would want the first one. I would copy and paste that, and then I would convert that, right click and convert to artwork, because you need a piece of artwork to make an SVG file. All right, so I've got that SVG file, and if I go now to File and Export Artwork, then it allows me to choose SVG, or in my case, I would choose FCM because it's my Scan and Cut native format. And then if I did that, I would call it Winter Candle Mat. I can put that on my desktop. And then when we go, let me go down here so you can see it. Right here is my file. Actually, that is now the cut. That's a cut file for my Scan and Cut. But you have to have an artwork in there to do that. So what I do is I copy my placement line, copy and paste it, and then convert it to an artwork so I can send it as an SVG file. See how easy it is to make an SVG? Or in this case, FCM. I prefer FCM when I do these. Okay, so it's right here. It says these are the three files. So here's my C2S, my PES, and my cut file for my applique. Okay. And so Lynn said, can we see it sew? So yes, we can watch it sew, which is cool with this. This is the other thing I did. I watched things sew in the sewing machine. That's how I learned to digitize. But if you want to see it sew on the screen, there's a little button up here, and it's called the slow redraw. So you just click, it looks like a little, kind of like a speedometer on your car. Okay, so if I click on that, it brings up this little, it's like play. You know, you hit play on your DVD player. So I'm going to play. So the first thing it's going to do, here's our placement line for the batting. Then it sews the tack down line for the batting. Then it's going to do the tack down line for the fabric. Okay, and then it's going to do the placement line for the flower applique. Then it's going to do the tack down line for the flower applique. Then it's going to do, it goes around it twice. And then it's going to do the stippling. So this is how this is a good way to see that you're getting it in, get it in your head how it's going. So it's doing the stippling over, and it goes over the applique and over the outside edges too. So yeah, so Ellen, you just need to have that artwork in there. So I just copied and pasted and made an artwork so that it would then go into one of those cut files. Okay, so now it's doing the stippling. I'll make it go a little faster. So it's stippling, and then it's going to do the satin stitch. So then there's our satin stitch. You can drag this and make it a little faster. Okay, there's our satin stitch, and then here's our little cute little snowflakes, and then it's going to do the big one in the center. Okay, and then we're going to put the backing on, and it's going to sew the backing down, and it goes around it twice. Okay, so that is the slow redraw, and you just turn it on by going up to like the little, looks like a speedometer, and then you click it again to turn it off. All right, so I'm click it again to turn it off. Okay, so this is our little candle mat. I will, so like I said, the sewing instructions are in the file. So does everybody know how to get it? If you haven't already gotten the file, go to Sew Along with Jan. What size is it? It's about 8 by 8, Cindy. So your machine's a little smaller, so you may have to just bring it down. You could just bring the size down or make it a little smaller because you only got a 6 by 6 hoop, so yours needs to be a little smaller. You can still do it. It's just not going to be, it's going to be the small candle mat instead of the larger one. Okay. So you go to Sew Along with Jan to get the file. Sew Along with Jan. The first post is the Dropbox post. You click on that, and there's two different links now. The first one is Sew Along with Jan. The second one is the software. So choose the software, and it's called Winter Candle Mat. And you can download the PES file, the C2S file, and the sewing instructions. And it has like all the cutting instructions in there too. Okay. So that's where that is. I was going to show you quickly what we're going to do next week. So next week we're going to go back and we're going to do the little March pillows. So we're going to start the March pillows. So here's the first March pillow. This is called Lucky Us, We Have Each Other. So it's going to have some fun little piecing in the hoop and some applique. So we're going to do that next week. And then the following week will be the square one. So then we're going to go, this one's more spring. So this one has the cute little kite and still has some shamrocks on the bottom. And then this one has the flange border instead of the binding border. Okay, so that's the next two classes. And then we'll go back to software again. And the software class for February, oh no, we're going to do the origami bag. I didn't have a picture of that one. The origami bag. And then the last weekend in February, we're going to do another software class. And we're going to talk about, in this program, there's a really cool thing called, it's in the tools, and it's a little thing called font editor. And we're going to talk about that because that way you can do, like if you have a bunch of purchased fonts, and you know how purchased fonts are, that you have to bring each letter in individually and get it into the software and make your names and stuff. This is a way you can make a keyboard font out of it and you can type it in. So it's really cool. And there's another couple little things I'll show you with it too. So that's part of this program also. Those of you with the suite, I've got a couple people that only have the suite version, which is the older version. You may not have font editor. It's under tools, so you might want to look. It's under tools and it's called font editor. Okay. So any other questions? This was a really fun little project. I enjoyed making this. This was something fun. I saw that candle mat one day. I was at the store and I thought, hey, that would be a really fun class. We'll make some candle mats. I just thought that was really cute. So, any other questions? So I think everybody, and I'm sorry if it stopped a little bit. I think I will call MediaCom and have them check. I just wonder if something happened to some of the cabling outdoors. Maybe something is not, maybe got damaged or something. So I will check. So I haven't had any problems with internet here, so I'm a little disappointed. So hopefully we can get it fixed so I can go back to using StreamYard too. So, all right. So next week we'll go back and we'll be doing some bench buddies. For some of you are signed up for tomorrow night. We're going to be doing, we're going to have a Bella box night. So if you've got the Bella box that they just came out with not too long ago, we will be working on those tomorrow night. We're going to make a couple projects out of that. So, all right. Alrighty, so everybody have a good week, and I will be seeing you next week, and we'll do some sewing. So we'll do some embroidery next week. So, alrighty, thanks everybody. Good night.